not exactly hidden. Koga breathes in deeply as he moves his hands slowly through the mudra, his hands in the seal of the thunderbolt as he thinks. As he moves them into the seal of the great thunderbolt, he considers further. He had known his great-grandfather for his entire life, a man that had always seemed so small, so weighed down by the world. Grandfather Takamichi had always been so very sad. He had seen the world shift so very quickly, and at times he could not recognize his own home. Only in shrines, in nature, and when surrounded by family did he seem to know where he was. The stories had been both awe-inspiring and so very sad. There was so much Koga could never forget. Not from his grandfather, not from the last true ninja in his family, old and while still loving life. He was clearly expecting it to end soon. There was a weight to a man that not only knew how to kill you with ease, but had seen so much he could scarcely explain it. Koga shifts to the seal of the outer lion and recalls the look of distant, bitter horror whenever his grandfather would speak of Hiroshima, how he had felt his spirit break as thoroughly as the city had been, how the world was changing faster and faster and he would never really find himself in it again. Then he would grow quiet and refuse to speak for an hour. Days later he would speak of such again and grow quiet once more. His fingers now in the position of the inner lion, and Koga lets out a deep breath as he pulls his mind from his distant grandfather and towards the forest itself, or rather, the will of the woods. He quickly forms the outer bonds mudra followed by the inner bonds. He needed it. This thing. It was effectively a kami. To feel the breadth of its awareness was nearly mind-numbing. The closest sensation he had ever felt was that first, and so far only, look backwards to earth and seeing just how small everything he had ever known was. He empties his mind and completes the next 3 mudra: the wisdom fist, the ring of the sun, and the hidden form. He exhales once more and feels all his stress and discomfort exit with the inner wind. In a single movement, he rises and pulls his glasses out of his breast pocket. He then starts walking back to the hidden village, or rather, the not-so-hidden village, as a straight path complete with stairs had been made from the village to the edge of the forest. Visitors were welcome, but only so long as they came in peace. As for the village itself, it was 104 buildings total. The vast majority were small houses. They were maybe the size of a bachelor apartment, each with a small fireplace for cooking and warmth, a bedroom and personal storage room. A communal latrine served as the 102nd building, and a food storage house and a communal meeting building were the 103rd and 4th. The last one was the largest by far. That was the easy part. The rest would be built by hand. Something to teach, something to learn. He quirks a slight smile at the sight of Jeth Erla and the new kid that literally wandered in the previous night. Mux Moro was a curious, inquisitive sort that wasn't traumatized, wasn't hurt, wasn't even unhappy. He just really wanted to be a sorcerer because they were so cool. The little brown-haired spit of energy had promptly declared Jeth Erla his new best friend, and all the men the coolest people to ever, and was really happy to be here. Koga's fervent hope was that Mux would be the standard for students to be rather than Jeth. Still, the 2 kids were being kept on task as a forge, and Smithy was being slowly built by hand. Stone by stone, branch by branch, handful of clay by handful of clay, it was all coming together. The muscles of the 2 children being hardened by labor without the aid of axiom, and basic lessons being taught as they work. Bernard, one of his Koga ninjas from their time in zero gravity, was currently explaining the importance of good manners with the very simplistic logic of, it costs you nothing but can buy you a lot. The forge itself was taking shape. A little circular chimney for hay, coal, or charcoal to burn in and superheat whatever ore they find. Then they'll gather it from the bottom and test it all before forging it together with more heat. Simple, practical and something to work at as a skill, something they could be proud of and could show off later in life. Practical too, with just a touch of axiom. Down below, on the next level down, were several fields for vegetable crops being planted between the massive roots of the titanic trees. Carnivores the apuk may be, but that doesn't mean there isn't enormous use for plant matter, the least of which to feed the humans or to bait out creatures you wish to hunt. A whisper in the air informs Koga that his musing is timely. A hunt has been successful, and a large paratok has been felled. The enormous scavengers are the local equivalent of boar, but bloated to the size of an ox. Without axiom, they'd be like hippos, harmless looking at first, but obscenely dangerous by any metric. The beings are quite round, almost appearing to be balls with a shaggy rug tossed on them at first. Then they unfold powerful but stumpy legs and charge. A combination of tough hide and tougher fur make them nearly impenetrable in battle, and its sheer bulk allows it to shatter the limbs of anything it fights, which then leads to its next meal, as these scavengers are as omnivorous as any boar. Tamed examples of the race are a food staple in most apuk cities, and no village is complete without at least a small ranch of the creatures. He makes his way quickly to the side of the plateau where the triumphant hunters are quickly ascending. His eyebrows go up in surprise as the paratak carcass is hurled at him with a laugh, but the axiom flows easily and he catches the enormous beast. The power flowing through him renders the enormous thing seemingly weightless, but still an absurdly awkward thing to carry. Where its fur isn't shaggy and matted with leaves and mud, it's instead very short and fine, ill-suited for gripping. The stump limbs ending in hooves, however, offer plenty of grip, and he sets down the enormous thing. Well, actually, he tried to hold it to the side, but stronger or not, it's still heavier than him by an order of magnitude, and it's a minor miracle it didn't knock him over, axiom or not. Was that supposed to accomplish something? He asks as the hunting party returns. They have several smaller bits of game as well, local fowl and some long, feathery serpents. Just making sure you're on your toes, Sensei. Nothing heinous, one of the Cretans says, and Koga shakes his head in annoyance. Right. Well, you all said you had hunting and skinning experience. Time to give me and the men down below a crash course. Oh, sure, it's easy enough. The real trick is to make sure you don't puncture things. It's all about cutting, not stabbing. Good, because we need to be careful with these things we haven't. Do you think I'm an idiot? I've not only got practice with dressing carcasses, but I've looked up this thing's anatomy and a couple of how-to videos. I'll play around plenty, but when lunch is on the line, I make sure I get things done. Then by all means, show us how it's done, O master of the meat. Oh no, we need a grill or a spit for that title to stick. Flame-kissed isn't bad though. Sure enough, in less than 30 minutes, most activity around the small community has stopped to witness the butchering of the paratak with Jeth and Mux front and center. Both grossed out, but neither willing to look away until the other does. Now kids, the reason I'm showing you all this with the knife work is that axiom makes a lot of things too easy. The forest does provide, the wood is on your side, but at the same time you need to really appreciate just how much it does for you. Dale, the nephew of a hunter and trapper, explains to his borderline captive audience. He had just finished gutting and carving one of the few fowl that had been caught after the big job of the paratak being dressed was done. But how much does the axiom help? I mean, it's in everything, right? So how can axiom not be used? Mux asks, and Dale chuckles in understanding as he holds up the second of the 3 fowl they caught. See this scurry bird? Dale asks, and both boys nod. You remember how it took me a few minutes to gut and pluck the other one? They nod again, and he grabs the carcass by the sides and runs axiom through it visibly. The guts fall out, the feathers molt off, and the feet and head just tumble off. There, one perfectly plucked and gutted bird. See how easy the axiom makes it? Then why are you even bothering with knives? Why not use just axiom? It's better anyways, Jeth asks, and Dale smirks. Is it? Dale asks, and Jeth and Mux both nod. In response, he holds the third scurry bird carcass out to them. All right then, both of you use axiom to pluck and gut this last one. You saw me do it with the knife. You saw me do it with axiom. It should be easy now, right? Yeah, of course. It's something like, Mux says, grabbing the carcass, and he and Jeth hold it between them. There's a surge of axiom followed by a slight bang, and both boys are covered in gore. What happened? Jeth demands in a shocked tone. I'll explain while we clean you two up. Hey boys, the snakes are edible, but not on normal menus, so it's an exploratory bit of butchery here. I'll be with the kiddos, Dale says, stepping out from around the large stone he'd been butchering the beasts on. I'll help. This is a learning moment, Koga says, and both men herd the children towards the river so they can wash up. I don't get it. We did the same thing. I focused on what I wanted and moved the power. What went wrong? Jeth asks after a few moments of rinsing gunk out of his hair in the cold water. You didn't know what you were doing, Dale says, as he splashes some water on Mux, who's full-on waded into the shallows of the river. Yay, but wait. You said this is a teaching moment, so there's something hidden here, Jeth says with a confused look on his face. Oh no, we're not doing that. That kind of teaching is more for philosophy and moral dilemmas. They're to get people to think more clearly while nudging them the right way. What you two did wrong is that you forgot that for as many options as Axiom gives you, it's just a tool, a fast-working and powerful tool. Yes, but in the end, only a tool, Koga answers. There's no actual difference to my slowly carving things up with a knife or using the Axiom to flinch and prepare it. It's just faster with the Axiom because I can do everything at once. Most things you can do with Axiom, you can do another way as well. And if you know those other ways, then it's very, very easy to do it with the Axiom. I spent a lot of time skinning and gutting things growing up. My family has a strong hunting tradition. Because of that, I generally know what the inside guts of an animal look like, and with Axiom, I can make the right cuts in the right places with ease. You saw me just shake the bird, but I made dozens of cuts, plucked every feather, and chopped off both the feet and the head. I just did it all at once. Is that why we're helping to build that furnace by hand? Mux asks. That's it exactly. If you know how make things by hand, then Axiom speeds it up immensely, Koga explains. But how often will we need to make furnaces? I mean, they're useful, but aren't they just another tool, meaning a step that can be skipped? Jeth presses. The furnaces themselves? Yes, but a furnace is made up of a stern and steady wall just wrapped up tight and with holes in the right places. You're also learning how to build walls, and you're building muscle too, Koga answers. Why do we need that? Jeth asks, and Dale chuckles. Because if your muscle is strong to begin with, then you don't need to use Axiom as much to become strong. Also, a healthy body leads to a healthy mind. Sometimes working your muscles can help you think. In fact, after dinner, I'm going to walk you both through some exercises designed to do just that, to clear your head so you can think better while also strengthening your bodies, Koga says, before grinning. Actually, that sounds like something we should get the entire town doing all together, something to begin and end the day with. Some basic PT every night and morning? Sounds great. Dale notes as he reaches out and plucks a bit of gunk off of Mux's horn.